Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Ian's Adventures once again in the great outdoors. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. Enjoy the video. Okay ladies and gentlemen, so here we are at the entrance to the wood. Now if I was walking on a route using a map and I came to this point here and I decided that this wood was going to be the place where I wanted to camp for the night, but I didn't know where, because a lot of the maps don't show internals of a wood. They might show the paths, but they don't show the sort of off routes. And if you wanted to camp out sort of in the woods, you're going to be struggling to be able to find your way in and out again without getting lost if it's a big wood or forest. So what we need to do is we need to get the grid reference to where you was here on the path. Does that make sense? So you get the grid reference when you're headed in, and that would be the start point on this cross section here, for example, of this wood, this path. So we've got a path heading down into the wood, just there, and we've got a path which circumnavigates the wood all the way around the edge. You don't go all the way around the wood, but it sort of circumnavigates this side of the wood. So we've come in from there, we take the 6-figure grid reference to where we are now. Now what we're going to be using in order to be able to do all this, first thing we're going to be using is a compass. And I'm going to just put this camera down so you can see. Now this is a compass. It's actually a copy of a British, an old British compass, and it's a lensatic compass, and it opens up like this, and it's got a lens at this side. All right, that's why it's called lensatic. Now this used to have a different form of lens on here, but for some reason it had got broke in the past, so I put this other one on. I've sort of mended it with this, and what you can do is you look through this inside the compass housing itself, all right, and then straight through to get a bearing on the point of reference. Okay, now I want to go down this path. So if I look down there onto it here, I can line that. I undo this slightly, I turn this around to line it up, and I look on there. Wait a minute, let's get me over here, because I need to line myself up to looking down that path. All right, it's jamming for some reason. That's better. There we go, that's better, that's lined up better. And that's at 55 degrees. All right, it says 5 to 6, well that actually means 55. Can you see that? Okay, now if I look inside there, that's going to be showing me 55. Right guys, I'm trying to line this up, I'm looking at an angle at it, so it's making it awkward. For some reason this bevel's sticking. There we go. There we go, that's at 55. Alright. There we go. There we go. So I've got that lined up and I'm now orientated. So what I do is I'll look through that into there and see where we're going, and that is at 55 degrees. All right, there's a little dot, a little line in there, and it lines up with there. That's going to give me my north. So I'll line the needle up for north, and I know now I'm going at 55 degrees. So what am I doing now? So I've got my direction. I'm going to be walking down this path so far before I veer off into the woods. So now I need to get the pacing. Now you can remember the pacing if you want to, but sometimes when you head off into the woods, you're climbing over brambles and all sorts of things. All right, so you need something else that you can use in order to be able to document your pacing. And in this case, I'm going to use one of these little clickers. All right, that's set at 0, and every time I push that, it's going to be 1 step. Now, 1 step, if I can just point at my feet, 1 step is 1. It's awkward to do this. I actually stopped the camera there by accident. So we've got 1, 2. So I'm right-handed, so I do my full step on my left foot. 1, 2, like that. That's how I do it. So we get back to this point of reference, and every time I step on my right foot, I will click this. So it'll be and 1, and 2, and 3. Does that make sense? So we're going to walk down here till I get to a point where I feel as though I want to walk into wood. Now when it comes to writing stuff down, I've got this notepad and pen, and this is an ideal pen because it's got a little carabiner thing on the top. But these are a bit special because this is a waterproof notepad and also a waterproof pen, so I can actually use that underwater. Alright, all I have to do is screw this off, and inside there's the pen, if you can see, and that is actually a waterproof pen. So if it starts raining, snowing, hail, if I have to go through rivers and such like, I can still use that notepad. Alright, so I hold that in that hand. In fact, I'm going to pop that in my, in fact no, we will write down a fictitious a fictitious grid reference. Let's make it realistic, shall we? Just bear with me on this. Right, I've got a pen lid in my mouth. So we'll say 2, you can see this, 2, 3, 7, 3, 2, 1. That's our grid reference, right? That's our point to start. And then we're going to put down the bearing, which was 55 degrees, and then next to that we're going to write down the amount of steps, and then after that we're going to put down a point of reference, something of interest when we get to the other side. I'll put that in my pocket so I don't lose it. When I get to the end of this point, when I'm about to move into the woods, I'll write that down there. So we're going to go through that. Now this little carabinery thing on the top is great because I just link it onto there. Alright, so that can now go back in my pocket for when I get there. So what I do is I'm going to get this, line that back up for 55 degrees, as so, and then I'm going to walk on that bearing. Okay guys, here we go. So we go, and let's get you back up there. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, just checking that, make sure it's all right. 13, 14, 15. I just got muddy. So at any point during this, I could have actually forgotten how many steps I've done. We've all done it, we've forgotten how many steps. Now if you're within about 3 or 4 or 5 steps of where you're supposed to be going, you should be alright, because you should be able to see where you're aiming at. But sometimes we're not, and it can all go pear-shaped, alright? So I'm walking on the bearing down into the woods. I hope this is going to be used to somebody, because so many people walk into a wood when they're hiking and they get totally lost and they come back out at a point they don't know where they are, they become disorientated. And like I say, you can do this if you've got your campsite out here in the woods and you want to either remember where it is, or you might have somebody you know who can use a compass, and they can use this method to find you. You can give them information over the phone, give them the grid reference to start from, and you can they will be able to hopefully find the way to your campsite. And you can also do this with kids to teach them about using compasses and all that kind of stuff. So it's great fun. So we're still doing good. Keep checking. Yep, we're good. Luckily this is a really straight path. If not, I would actually mark down in the notes that the path bends slightly. So you could just follow the path basically. You won't really need to do a grid reference on this. Follow the path for so many clicks. Okay, so we're coming to a clearing here. So we're at 110. We're 110. Alright, so we've got 110 clicks walking on a 55 degree bearing. Alright guys? So here we are out in the woods, and we're going to be going off in that direction, but we're at a clearing, and the clearing's got a large tree. So I've walked 55 degree, 110 steps to a clearing, large tree, and I can write down any other notes about and felled branches. So it gives me an idea. So and I'll put a path So we're on the path in a clearing with a large tree and felled branches. So I've got a rough idea. You can also leave points of reference here. You could either leave an arrow or a stick, but if you don't want people to follow you, you're not going to leave stuff like that. It's not a bad idea also to have ultraviolet paint and to find a stick on the ground and paint it with that and then use an ultraviolet torch if that's what you want to do, and that will give you at night an idea of where you're coming up to the right point. Now, I'm going to be heading from here now out there, so I need to be looking on the compass again, line the compass up, and that's 130 degrees. So down here we're at 130 degrees in that direction, because I want to go in that direction. Now as I go through, I'm going to come across pieces of bushes and brambles and all sorts. I'm going to have to walk around them, and I can, if I want to, mark all this down on here. But the main thing is to be working on the bearing, walking straight out there into the woods at 130 degrees. All right, and I'm going to be counting how many steps. So I need to clear this. I'll put that back in my pocket now because I'm not using it at the moment. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I can put this, see, I can up this pen on anything I want to. I'm going to clear this off so we're back to where we were, to 0, 0, 0. Oh, I'll put it all the way around again. Here we are, so 0, and every second step, 130 degrees. All right, I'm going to do, so it's and click, and click. So off we go, out into the woods, okay, walking on this bearing, 130 degrees. So you'll see how easy it is to forget how many steps. Now you can just stick that in your pocket if you want to. And I'm still walking on that bearing. Okay guys, wait a minute while it settles. There we go. And I'll tell you when we get to the next point. Okay, so we've come to this point here, and I can see straight in front of me there's 3 big trees growing out of the same base. All right guys, can you see that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back to 0 again. Okay, I can hold that there. Get my notepad out. All right, get the pen, and that was 83 steps. 83, and I've come across 3 trees, same tree. Alright guys, so it's 3 trees growing out of the same tree. Does that make sense? Alright, and we were working on that 130 degrees for 83 steps, so we've got to this point here. Now if I wanted to, again, I could leave something. I can leave something here if I want to. Now what I want to be doing is moving on, so we're going to be heading off through here into the distance over there. Alright guys. Alright, so I wanted to head over in that direction, so I line my compass up to north and I look and it's at 95 degrees. Alright, so it's 95 degrees, so I'm going to let myself, and that is southeast, and I'm heading off in that direction. Okay, I've cleared my clicker off, so, oh sorry, I've got to write that down, haven't I? That'll come in handy. So I'm walking on 95 degrees, 90, come on Ian, 5 degrees, and then I can count out how many clicks it is to his next point. Oops, I put my clicker away. That's not, that's a bit bonkers. I put my clicker away instead of putting my notepad away. Are you ready? Off we go. He says. Let me set up. And I'll come back to you in a minute when I've done it. Here we go. So that's 37 steps, and we've come to this large tree with a branch leant against it. Okay, so I can write down on my notepad in this wonderful 95 degree, 30, how many does I say? 37 second steps. 37, okay. Large tree, leaning branch. Okay, so we've got a large tree, got 95 degrees, 37 steps, and it's a large tree with a leaning branch. Anything else I want to, and I could write down that there's next to large tree stumps. Next to large tree stumps. I can read it, that's what matters. Now I need to go down in that direction. So let's have a look. So let's mark ourselves up. Pop that in my pocket a second. Okay, so release the Breville. Okay. And I want to be going down in that direction. Down there. And that tells me that that is at 50 degrees. So I'm going to walk down on a 50 degree bearing. So I'm going to get my notepad out. Yeah, this can get a bit monotonous. And I write 50 degrees on the compass. And I can put the... Let's see if you can see what I'm seeing here. Diddly-dee. See if I can get you to see it. This is really awkward to try and get this to line up. There we go. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if that's going to focus. Does it focus? I can't tell. There we go. But it gives you an idea. So we're walking on 50 degrees down through the woods. Right, guys? In that direction. And I'm going to be using my ticker to time how many steps I've walked. And by working this out and knowing how many steps you walk per 100 metres, you can work out your distance, because it's 100 metres and then 10 of them makes a kilometre. Alright, so you can add that to your route card. And then next time you come, if you want to camp in the same place, you know your 6-figure grid reference where you came from, you can follow this back through and come back to exactly the same spot. Right guys, so off we go. We're clear, we're ready to click. 2, 3, 4, 5. And it makes it more interesting at night time, because it's difficult to be able to watch your compass and where you're going at the same time. I'm stepping over logs and all sorts of stuff here, which is why it's so easy to forget those clicks, those steps, forget your numbers. Right, I'll come back to you in a minute, guys. Okay, so I've gone on the 50 degree back bearing at 230, alright, at 59 steps, which comes from the campfire to where I am now with the 3 trees, alright. So then I've got 95 degrees, alright, back bearing, up to the 3 trees, which is 235 degrees, okay, at 37 steps. And then we're going from the 3 trees back to the large clearing, which is 130 on the way into 310 back bearing, which takes me up to there, 83 steps. And then I go from the clearing at 55 degrees on the way in, which is 235 degrees on the way out. All right, guys. Which takes me back out to where we started. Okay, so I'm going to work on that now. So what I do is I'm going to look at the compass. Okay, I'm going to line that up to 235, and then I take that and line it up with north. So I know that I need to be walking in that direction for 37 clicks, 37 steps. All right, chaps? So I'm walking on that bearing for 37 clicks. And that's why you can fasten the bevel. So it locks that in place. So it's not going to move around while you're walking. Obviously, I can use that if I want to get a perfect bearing on it. 235, which is just there, that's spot on. Okay chaps, so off we go and walk on that bearing. And step, step. So I'm doing that for 30 odd. Just a minute, let's get that right way around. And I'll come to you in a minute when I get there. And back in the room. I'm walking on the bearing, clicking away. I ain't done all the in-between stuff because it'll bore you out of your mind. And here we are, we've found the 3 trees. Okay, so we're back to the 3 trees. We've walked on that bearing at 235 degrees. Okay chaps, let's get this little notepad out. Okay guys, so from this point here, I've got to make my way back to the clearing from the 3 trees at 310 degrees. So I've locked 310 into the compass, locked up the housing and the bevel. We've locked it onto north, so we've got magnetic north just there. So I want to be heading in that direction. That should take me to the clearing. If I can just turn this back, oopsie daisy, just turn this back to 0. Oh dear. So we're back to 0, 310 degrees, it was 130, back bearing at 310, okay, 83 clicks from the 3 trees. That's going to take us back to the clearing, if all goes well, although I've been getting some really weird readings out here in the woods. It's been causing my compass to spin a little bit, so that can be anything, geomagnetic earth movement and all that kind of stuff. So off we go, and click. Okay, so we're still walking on the bearing, but you can see underfoot that it's just brambles and small trees and bush areas. Okay, sorry about that, nearly dropped my clicker. So we're still on the bearing, and it brings us exactly to a tree, and 83, 84 I've counted this time, but that's fine. Alright, so we're back here to the clearing with the trees. Now I need to go on to, it was 55 degree on the way in, so the back bearing is going to be 235. So step out onto the path. Okay guys, I clear the clicker. Yeah, I've got some weird fluctuations on my compass out in woods, which would a bit bizarre. Now I know this path is straight, it's straight right way up to there, but we're at 55 degrees, so I'll release that. So we're gonna, this keeps catching for some reason. No, I'm not loosening it off enough. So I go to 55 degrees. Okay, well the opposite way to that is 235, so we're going to turn it around. It keeps catching. 235. Go on, where are you? Not too far. 235 to there. Okay, line that up, and that's exactly it. We'll crack on, and that's going to be 110 clicks. Have I levelled that back out again? Yes. Okay guys, so we'll walk that out, shall we? See if that works out. You can walk this one out with me, alright? So if you see how spooky, horrible with glowing eyes, you'll let me know, won't you? Because it is a bit of a weird place. One. So it gives you an overview. I hope this has helped somebody. Basically, if you need to go into woods in the dark, if you need to go into deep woods to try and find a campsite and such like, I'm still working on my compass, even though I'm on a path. So this can bring you out onto a path. You don't have to put, I mean you do really, you need to step it out because you might come across another path and think that's your path. So it's always better to document things when you're out in the woods. Or even on the hills, you know, out on the, walking on a bearing and stuff like. This is another good way to do it. For the sake of the compass, you can use the clicks in your head, so you don't really need the clicker. And then you've got your paper, your pen and paper. It's better to have one of these pen and paper, which you've got the, which are waterproof. How are we doing for clicks? Are we doing good? Doing good, halfway there. Still working on that bearing. I love being out in the woods on my own. It freaks a lot of people out. They have a lot of vulnerability because they're not used to being out here. But I'm used to being out here. Got to be careful also when you're tired, because you can see how many steps you've done and sometimes get that mixed up with the bearing. You've got to keep a clear head when you're doing this as well. How are we doing for numbers? Alright. We're counting 110 on the way in. Is it going to work out something like? I love working with maps, I love working with compasses, and I love challenging myself. I don't like this. It's always good to go out with your kids or just test yourself working with a compass. See, we're still on the right bearing. Up here. And exactly to where we started is 110 steps. And it was on that bearing, so we've done. So what have we done? Let's look at what we've done. We've looked at this compass, this compass is actually, I think I mentioned it before, I can't remember if I mentioned it. It's an Israeli compass from the Israeli army in the 1970s, from the Israeli Defense Force, IDF. Okay, this bit was broken, so I had to mend that bit. It's got a little lens, a smaller lens. I've put a bigger lens on it so that I can see down onto there, and that folds in, but it still fits. It had a bubble in it when I got it, but I've mended that as well. And it's probably the most reliable compass I've ever come across, if I'm going to be honest. So all this information's there. We've got our grid reference start point, which we made up obviously. Then we've got the direction we wanted to walk in. Then we've got the amount of steps we walked into the wood. Then we've got what was there when we arrived at a particular point of interest. And then we've done that for each one. And then on the way out, we've done the back bearing for each of them. And done exactly the same thing backwards to get ourselves back to this point out. Practice this. You're not always going to get this right. All right? But that's no big deal. There's a learning curve. I get it wrong sometimes. And if you do get it wrong, it can really knock you, because suddenly you find yourself off your beat, off your bearing. You've got to find your way back somehow to somewhere you sort of recognise in order to be able to pick up on this little, because this is a route card. It's still a form of route card. It's just a very basic one. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope it's been of some use to somebody, simply by utilising a compass, preferably a lensatic compass, so it's directional. Alright, some of the military ones are really, really reliable and tough. Using a notepad, a clicker, but you don't need the clicker, you can do it in your head, and the pen. In this case it's a waterproof pen and a waterproof pad, which is always going to be advantageous. We can find our way into the wood and out of the wood, create a little route card, so that, like I said before, if you've got a camp out there and you want to be able to find it, if you've got friends you want to guide in, if people can use a compass and or to step, and also if you just want to camp in the woods and be able to find yourself into the woods and back to the point, back on your map where you can see. These are all methods that you can use. I'm hoping you can see me here. You might not be able to see top of my head. But Woodwell Woods is an absolutely belting place. If you get a chance, come and have a look at the location. It's a bit of a reserve as well. It's got an amazing amount of wildlife, but it's also known to be haunted. So if you're interested in the haunted, spooky stuff, come and get yourself out, have a look around. There's supposed to be a white lady that walks up and down this path. I haven't seen her tonight. I've had some strange experiences in here though, so I think it just adds a little bit to it for me. Okay, thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please like, share and subscribe. I do appreciate it. I'm not doing this for gaining cash. I'm doing it basically to try and help people out with new skills and improve people's skill set. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now. Take care. Bye bye.